Otra de las cosas que desde el gobierno se puede hacer para favorecer este cambio de la institución es
other things the government can do to bring about change in the armed forces are democratize access to the high ranks and change the selection criteria for entrance in the armed forces. If we analyze the Venezuelan armed forces, we find no military caste existed. There are other countries like Argentina or Brazil where the high military officers come from the elite of those societies. In Venezuela, sons of ordinary and low-income families can become high-ranking officers. I wrote a book about interviewing several generals and high-ranking officers who participated in overturning the coup against Chavez, and I found that all of them came from very modest families. One of those generals came from a family which was so poor he did not have shoes for going to the Sunday Mass. He had to stand in the back of the church. He could not kneel down because his shoes had holes. That helps in raising the awareness of the military in Venezuela, in its politicization in the healthy sense of the word, and that has not been so in other countries. So one idea could be that everybody who is interested in a military vocation should be encouraged by the government to enter into military school in order to become top military officers in the army. Another thing that can be done is to change the selection criteria. Álvaro García Linera, the Vice President of Bolivia, explained that previously the military high command in that country was selected through influence. If you had been to the School of the Americas, if you had contact with the North American Embassy, you had more possibilities of promotion. Today, they are trying to introduce other criteria for promotion. Who are those that have greater concern with their homeland? Who are those that have more attachment to the institution? Who are those that support the social and productive aspects of the country? Those are the ones who have greater possibility of being promoted. It is a much more democratic way. Another thing that can be done by the governments is to change military doctrine in such a way that it incorporates the people into the defense tasks. Our conception of a socialist society is that the armed forces, the public officials, should be elected by the people and are part of the people, and they must respond to the people, and therefore there has to be a direct relation between officials and the people. It is absolutely coherent with our national defense doctrine that the people are incorporated into the defense of their country and all of us are part of the people. Although there is military that have more technical functions, our people have to form a unity with all the levels of the army forces for the defense of the country.
Y esto no es una cuestión que estemos inventando nosotros los comunistas terribles que nos pinta la oposición. Resulta que en la guerra de la independencia, en Bolivia, por ejemplo, el vicepresidente...
That is not an issue we are inventing. We, the terrible communists, as the opposition paint us. In the independence wars in Bolivia, as Álvaro García Linera says, the Bolivians struggled for 15 years against the Spanish colonialists, using a system they call republiquetas, little republics, which was a melding of the military and the local community structure. It is in that way that they resisted and defeated the Spanish army. The Bolivians are thinking of bringing back the tradition of republiquetas into their military doctrine. How has Cuba discouraged new invasion from being made? Well, with the people's militia, that is to say, with a combination of an armed population and soldiers willing to defend their country. They have their concept of the people's war. The North American knows if they try to invade that country, they will come up against a massive resistance of the people, and it will be worse than Vietnam was for the North American Army. We are also going forward with the topic of defense in South America by the creation of a Defense Council of UNASUR. Now we, the countries of Latin America, will have our own Council of Defense. Another thing that is being done is recovering the patriotic symbols. For example, in Bolivia, the indigenous flag called huipala has been integrated in a national emblem. The army just recently parades with the two flags, the classic flag of Bolivia, as we say, and the huipala, because nowadays Bolivia has been proclaimed a plurinational state in the new constitution. So it was logical that the flag of the indigenous nations would be present in the military parade. And lastly, there is one task which is fundamental in transforming the armed forces, and that is to integrate them in the building of the new society. For example, in the task of building territorial state sovereignty. It can appear strange in some countries because the presence of their army forces extends throughout their whole territory. But in Bolivia, whenever Morales came to government, 30% of the national territory was not controlled by the state nor by the armed forces. The whole eastern strip of the country, which includes Beni and Santa Cruz, was in the hands of the landlords, drug traffickers, wood smugglers, and smugglers of raw material and minerals. The law of the strongest reigned. Neither the army nor the government were there. Nowadays, they are in the process of recovering that area. First, the government has made itself presence in the whole territory, and already we know the result of the last elections. Many people from the party of the president has been elected. Ground is being gained in those areas, and already there is a military and government presence throughout the country. That is another factor that enables the armed forces to feel capable in defending the country's sovereignty, because imagine arriving to some places in the country and finding the law of the strongest is what rules. These are some ideas of how governments can take initiatives in creating different kind of military, closely integrated to the people in the building of the new society.